South Africa's Reserve Bank will be making an announcement on interest rates today. And the DA and 7 other opposition parties reject the proposal by the ANC Chief Whip Matola Motshekga that the motion of no confidence in President Jacob Zuma should be debated at the end of February next year. I'm Richard Brooks. South Africa's Reserve Bank will be making an announcement on interest rates today when it concludes its 3-day Monetary Policy Committee meeting. The central bank left rates unchanged in September. It maintains that the risks to inflation outlook were more or less balanced, with higher food and oil prices among the risks. The Reserve Bank also said wage settlements in the troubled mining sector risked setting a precedent for wage demands generally in the economy. Rafe Tabane has more.
Inflation is likely to continue to rise this year on the back of higher food price inflation. CPI inflation is likely to exceed the Reserve Bank's target for a significant period in 2013. Statistics South Africa recently changed the weightings in its consumer price index basket to give a slightly lower weighting to food, while petrol and electricity weightings will rise. Meanwhile, economists say the higher-than-expected inflation figures released yesterday, combined with inflation risks in the coming months, support the view that the Reserve Bank will keep rates on hold. Inflation is likely to continue to rise this year on the back of higher food price inflation. Morafe Tabane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The DA and 7 other opposition parties have rejected the proposal by the ANC's Chief Whip Matola Motshekga that the motion of no confidence in President Jacob Zuma should be debated on the 26th of February next year. A joint statement has been released by the DA on behalf of COPE, Freedom Front Plus, UCDP, ACDP and the UDM. Motshekga had written to the Speaker and the Chief Whips of the opposition parties to consider his new proposal. A High Court ruling on the matter is also expected later today. Mercedes Besent reports.
DA parliamentary leader Lindiwe Masibuko says their request for a court order compelling National Assembly Speaker Max Sisulu to do everything in his power to schedule this debate before the end of the parliamentary term remains in force. They have described Motshekga's proposal as phenomenal backtracking, accusing him of undermining the constitution, which they say enables the assembly to remove a sitting president through a majority vote. Mercedes Besent, SABC News, Parliament.
COSATU's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi has called on Gauteng motorists to join in the march against e-tolls on the 30th of November. He says society must not give in to government's pressure and stand against the No to E-Tolls campaign. Vavi says they will be marching through Johannesburg's freeways, going from gantry to gantry.
We will visit all the e-tolls, from this one that is taking the poor from Soweto to the other one in the east, in the north, in the west, everywhere where they are. We will not allow you to kill us. We are paying up to here already. We can simply not afford.
12 rockets hit Israel from the Gaza Strip in the first hours after a truce was brokered between Palestine and Israel. Officials say no injuries or damage was caused by the attacks. A ceasefire was announced last night by the Egyptian government. Israel is expected to open Gaza's border if the truce holds for 24 hours. Meanwhile, COSATU's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi has welcomed the ceasefire, praising the work of the Egyptian government. However, he says the US and the United Nations should put an effort to help find a permanent resolution to the conflict.
Anybody must welcome the ceasefire. We welcome that. But let's go back to the fundamental reason behind the conflict, where the people of one country have been completely failed by the United Nations because the United States of America is blocking every effort to resolve the issue.